ask as well, in terms of, if a woman has had, as you said, like an ectopic pregnancy, can they get pregnant again? Because I think some people would think that, if you have it, then that's it. You can't get pregnant again.
So you can always get pregnant again, but the underlying thing is that the exact cause of that ectopic, which we did not know at the time it happened, means that there is a risk that it might have happened. It could happen again. So it is not that once you have an ectopic, you will not get pregnant. You can get pregnant, but it is the chance that your next pregnancy can become an ectopic is also high compared to somebody who's never had an ectopic. Because if you had a disease that affected both tubes and you got pregnant and had an ectopic in your right tube, it meant that in your next pregnancy you can get an ectopic in the left. Okay, but to a large extent, a lot of women with ectopic can carry successfully another pregnancy to term without difficulty. And you can have an ectopic, subsequently give birth to 3, 4 without any problem. What, however, is dangerous is if you have had ectopic twice. You have one ectopic on the right, and then we take off that tube. And then you have another ectopic on the left, and we take off that tube. Then your chance of becoming pregnant is almost zero. But medically, we don't want to say never, because anything can happen. Because you can have an in vitro fertilization, where they implant the pregnancy in your womb and you can become pregnant, and there are a lot of medical advances that can still help you out. But let me not say that the only treatment of ectopic is taking off your tube, because if we diagnose the ectopic very early, there are medicines we can give that... If you say very early, how early is early? Some people think they'll wait after 3 months to go to the doctors. I won't advise that. Now we have very advanced ultrasonography machines, and so if a woman misses her period within a week, 2 weeks, and you get to the hospital and we do a pregnancy test and it's positive, we can do a scan at that time.
Passion, we are talking about risks of getting pregnant. Of course, it's an exciting moment for every woman, for those who want babies, but there are certain things you need to pay attention to before you go in to get pregnant. I don't need to tell you how to get pregnant.
Doctor, so for women who experience loss, yes, whether it's the baby through ectopic or sometimes otherwise, it's a grieving moment for a lot of them. How can they best take themselves through that grieving period before they at least try to get pregnant again?
Yes, it's a very devastating thing for any woman, particularly if that pregnancy was desired and welcome. Because you could have a pregnancy you didn't want anyway. So if that pregnancy goes away, you're not bothered. But if you really needed that pregnancy and then you have a loss, it could be a very sad moment for you. Some level of counseling helps, and your primary caregiver, whoever is managing you at that point, need to counsel you. And then a good supporting husband also helps you through that period, that you know that all is not lost. Because like I said, a very high number of our pregnancies, worldwide, miscarry within the first 3 months, and you may not even know. A woman can become pregnant and lose that pregnancy and think it was just a delayed menses that has come, especially if she never did a pregnancy test, and you may not know. So if you happen to know that you were pregnant and you lost it, I don't think you should just see it as the end of the world. It's become very sad if it becomes a recurrent pregnancy loss, because some people lose 2, 3 in succession, and that becomes very sad. And after every loss, I think you need to visit a gynec so that they examine you and should be sure that whatever the cause of the losses is not recurrent and it wouldn't happen again. So they take good care of it and prevent it subsequently from happening.
Okay, Ambrose is calling from Cape Coast. After Ambrose, I want us to talk about aging and ectopic. Yeah. Ambrose, good morning from Cape Coast. Thanks for joining us. Good morning, Ambrose. Okay, let's talk about aging and then risk of ectopic.
Hello.
Good morning, Ambrose.
Yes, good morning, Nana. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Your point this morning?
I want to congratulate you for this program.
Thank you.
Yeah, but what I want to suggest, would it not be nice when you do this program in the evening where everybody is back from work, so that the ladies who benefit from this program will benefit fully, you understand?
Good advice.
Everybody is at work. Beautiful ladies are at work.
Only beautiful ladies.
So think about this too.
Good advice. We've taken that one. We will definitely do something about it. He has a good point anyway. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about age. Is there a surrogate for other risks?
Yes, aging, in fact, getting pregnant at an advanced age puts,
like
after 35 years, puts every woman at some higher risk than everybody else. If that's your very first pregnancy and it's happening at 35, 40, the risk even becomes higher. The reason is that we can explain it to the very basic level, but I'm not sure our viewers might understand. Because you see, the functioning of your body reduces with age. And if you look at the process of pregnancy, like I said, fertilization happens somewhere in the fallopian tube, and that baby is pushed down by something we call cilia. They are pushed gently from the fallopian tube into the uterine cavity. Now, with advancing age, the functioning of that cilia could reduce. If you are advanced in age, even the function of your fallopian tube itself may have become problematic. It presupposes that if you've been attempting to become pregnant, and that's your first time of becoming pregnant at that advanced age, some factors might have prevented you from becoming pregnant, and those factors could even be predisposing you to an ectopic. So all that could contribute to you developing an ectopic. Somebody who's had a lot of infections in youthful stages at 18, 20, and finally decide to become pregnant at 35 has a higher risk at that level, So there is some risk with ectopic, but that's not the only risk. There are a lot of other risks with aging once you become pregnant. Incidence of congenital disorders like Down syndrome.
We'll cut in briefly. Emma will take the next call. Okay, we lost Linda.
Okay. So there are other medical problems that could happen with advanced age, like there's incidence of congenital problems like Down syndrome and all the rest when the mother, your first pregnancy happens at a very advanced age. And in the hospital setup, in our policies in the Ghana Health Service, Ministry of Health, any woman pregnant for the first time above 35, we consider that as a high risk and we want to manage you by a specialist.
Doctor, what about babies with ectopic pregnancies? Is every ectopic pregnancy meaning that you lose the baby, or there's hope?
It depends on the location of the ectopic pregnancy. Like I said earlier, there have been reported cases in the literature from Tamale, from Kolebu, even last week, and things like that, where if the pregnancy is located in the abdominal cavity only, then there is a likelihood that it can grow to term. That notwithstanding, there are a lot of risks even associated with that pregnancy, and it needs to be managed very well by a specialist, not anywhere else, because the delivery of that baby must definitely be through a cesarean section, or what we call a laparotomy. We need to open up to take that baby because you cannot deliver that baby normally. And the baby may be attached to other organs within the abdominal cavity, which can cause a lot of problems, So, but by and large, if you put that aside, every other ectopic pregnancy means that it cannot progress to term, because where the pregnancy is located does not have the capacity to expand to allow that baby to grow to the full status that it needs to get to, and things like the placenta and things will not get a place to lodge to promote growth.
Okay, let's look at some postulations. I'm not sure if they are postulations, but that's just what my brain tells me. Okay. Douching.
Yes.
Is it in any way associated with ectopic? Is there a link?
Theoretically, yes, but in terms of evidence-based practice, which is what we are using now.
So it is a postulation?
I do not have that empirical evidence. But if you look at the fact that you are trying to wash up there, unless, of course, it's very, very, very unlikely. Unless you are saying that whatever fluid you are using to douche eventually gets into the uterine cavity and then is able to push out. But because the cervix is almost all the time closed, when you douche, it's unlikely the fluid can get into your uterine cavity to push out whatever.
Doctor, I'm going to cut you off. Okay. Sorry about that. We have Hannah on the line.
Okay.
Good morning, Hannah. What's your comment or contribution? Good morning.
Good morning.
Please speak to the doctor.
Okay, please, I want to ask the doc a question. Please, what causes ectopic?
Okay.
You explained earlier.
Yeah,
but
so
you can recap.
I think I explained that earlier, but I said that the commonest cause is not poorly treated pelvic infections from any cause of the infection that is not properly treated, poorly functioning tubes, and a few other things that we mentioned that are associated with it, but not necessarily a cause. but the commonest cause is pelvic infection poorly managed.
And a lot of times, though, women, when they do have, as you said, some kind of discharge, they will just go and buy an over-the-counter remedy. They will not go and see a doctor.
Yes.
So, again, what should women be always going to a doctor? People think it's expensive. A lot of people don't want to go to a doctor. They'll say, oh, it's only a bit of white or a bit of whatever, and then go and take whatever they find in the pharmacy.
Yeah, but I don't think there is anything more expensive than a life.
Okay.
And considering the fact that the costs of a poorly managed situation resulting in an ectopic, you are losing a baby and you could stand the risk of losing your own life. So if you put all these together, I don't think it's an expensive thing to get properly treated at a hospital. And sometimes we actually spend more money. Buying one drug here, it does not work. You go to the next pharmacy, you are giving something that this is for white. Meanwhile, what you are happening is not white. Maybe like we discussed some weeks earlier, it could be bacterial vaginosis, chlamydia infection. You'll be treating with fungal drugs. It won't work. And that goes up, blocks your tube or partially blocks. If it blocks your tubes completely, maybe you are lucky. In another way, I mean, being cynical here, because then you are not able to be pregnant at all. And then you don't get ectopic. But if it partially blocks it and then you become pregnant, then you think you are pregnant before you realize that thing burst out somewhere.
But that could also be the case of misdiagnosis in the hospitals.
In that, how? Explain that better.
Well, we know of what some of you doctors can do or are capable of sometimes. Not all of you, but a tiny group of you, a minority. And you come in with an infection and you're treated for something else.
Yes, that I would accept that it does happen. But it depends on the setup, because if you come in with a vaginal infection, the doctor might, based on clinical evidence that you have submitted to him, the nature of the infection, the nature of the discharge, the characteristics of it, think that it is this and treats you for that. But if the doctor isn't sure, the best way is to test for it, right? Is to take a specimen from there, test in the lab and know exactly what organism. But to a large extent, most gynecologists will combine a lot of medications.
Just 1 second. Amma will take Gladys's call.
Good morning, Gladys from Koforidua. Please, what is your question or contribution?
How are you?
We are very well, thank you.
I want to ask the doctor, I want to be pregnant. My husband is not around and he will be coming very soon. So how?
Okay, that's a very lovely one.
How?
The how of the details of the pregnancy, once the husband comes, that will happen. But but if you ask how, I think it's a very good thing that you are planning about it. And in Koforidua, there are a lot of hospitals in Koforidua. There are gynecologists there. We have colleagues in the the Eastern Regional Hospital, that's central. You can visit any of them and then tell them you are planning to become pregnant and you want to become pregnant. And they could check you, be sure that everything is fine, and prepare you while you wait for your husband. They could put you on some folic acid and other things. And then when your husband comes, we celebrate.
Okay, I'm getting ideas here. Anyway, so we have to say a very big thank you to you, Dr. Bayo. The education has been great, and I think that is a good thing that the media houses are taking these things up. It's very, very important. We set the agenda. Anyway.